Hey everybody, what the fuck am I talking about? Hello, happy global pandemic. I hope everyone is enjoying their time with the COVID-19 global pandemic. It's been pretty amazing. Everyone is just staying at home, scared shitless, just doing absolutely nothing. And this is a absolutely amazing time for personal self-reflection, specifically into the phenomenon of boredom. Why on earth do we get bored? What's the point? What's the function that boredom plays in our lives? Now, there's many different perspectives that you can tackle this problem from, but it's important to understand that if you don't master boredom in your life, then you're going to spend the rest of your existence just endlessly chasing after new external stimulus. Because if you haven't noticed, that is literally all you do. That is your life. You just chase after external stimulus, entertainment, new things, new videos on Instagram, new videos on YouTube, new porn videos on Pornhub, which they changed to Stay Home Hub, which is pretty genius. New video games to play, new food to eat. That's all you do is just search for new stimulus, because the root reason is because you're bored. So I hope you see that by mastering boredom, you're actually mastering your psychological maturity, and you're mastering your entire life. So there's two perspectives that you can really look at boredom from. The first perspective is very simple. It's just basically evolutionarily, which is a word that I made up. From the perspective of evolution, the reason why the human biological animal gets bored is because boredom is basically a driver for us to seek out new stimulus, and it helps us survive. Because if you're alone in the forest doing absolutely nothing and you're lost, the survival things that you need to live are, number one, first thing you need is shelter and protection from the elements, and you need warmth. The second thing you need is water, and then the third thing you need is food. Now, the fourth thing that you need is super interesting, and that is entertainment. Now, this shows us that entertainment is actually a basic need, and it is essential for us to survive and to, most importantly, stay sane. And also, when we get bored, we are able to proactively seek out and improve the quality of our shelter, improve the quality of our relationships with other humans, and that overall just makes for better well-being in the world. However, there's another perspective that you can look at boredom from, which is never talked about ever, but is way more important and way more significant and practical for you in your everyday life. And that is the more spiritual and existential perspective. So another way that we can define boredom is you being very discontent with the present moment as it is. And what you are trying to do is you're trying to run away from the present moment, and you're trying to distract yourself with something else. Now, this spiritual perspective, the reason why you don't like the present moment the way it is, the reason why you always have to fill it with some type of entertainment, is because the truth is, if you sat down in an empty room and did nothing for a long period of time, such as what I just did on my meditation retreat that I just got back from 2 weeks ago, where I sat alone for 10 days and I meditated for 16 hours every single day. Now, like, that's like a shit ton of meditation, and I almost drove myself crazy. But I also learned a thing or two about the nature of the mind, and you start to see that if you sit and do nothing for a long period of time, then what you think reality is actually starts to dissolve, because your entire life is basically held together by stories in your mind. And these stories are very, very fragile, and they actually start to crumble under the weight of any type of serious existential questioning. So when you sit in a room and do absolutely nothing for hours and days and months, you are forced to come face to face with just the present moment. What the hell is this thing? The present moment? What? Why is anything existing at all? How is there even a self? What am I? Am I a human being with a name and a story? What is the body? Where did it come from? You start to question these really basic things. Now, 99% of people have some really convenient stories that just sweep all of these questions away, such as, oh yeah, I'm a human being, you know, evolution, the Big Bang, heard of that. That's why we're here. But if you're a real good philosopher and you're actually curious about reality and what it is, like I am, I don't know why, I'm so curious as to what this actual present moment consists of, what its substance is. As you question it, you start to realize that all of these stories, all of these are basically creation myths that humans have been telling themselves for thousands of years to avoid facing the really radical and scary truth of just the fact that reality exists at all. Now, if you study the ancient scriptures, if you study any spirituality at all, and you study any spiritual school, whether it be Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Christianity, Zen, Advaita, any type of spiritual school, I've actually spent a lot of time researching and studying all of these. They're so interesting, but what's so cool about them is that all of these different schools of spirituality, even science, such as what quantum mechanics points to, what all of these schools point to is that the true nature of reality has already been discovered. For thousands of years, it's already been known. A lot of people avoid doing any type of existential inquiry, which means just looking at reality and saying, what the fuck is this shit? What the fuck? Holy shit, what is this? The reason why we avoid doing that is because we have this assumption that it's impossible to know. And I'm just a dumb human being, so how could I know what reality is, right? And you play humble. You play like, oh, I don't know, I'm a human being. But claiming that you can't know is actually a form of knowing, because you're claiming that you know that there's no way to know what reality is. And if you're even a little bit open-minded, you've already realized that every single spiritual school is basically talking about the exact same thing. They're talking about one grand truth, one grand experience that explains all of reality and all of existence. But here's the catch. This truth, this one truth, is the same for everyone because everyone is living in the same existence. but it can never, ever be explained with language or be told in words. And you'd have to expect that, because any truth that encompasses all of existence and all of reality necessarily couldn't be explained with any type of word or idea, because words and ideas and language, they are parts. They're small little parts. They're little parts and little symbols that explain parts of reality, but they're really, really bad for explaining all of reality. Because words are inherently dualistic, meaning any word that I say, your mind only knows what it means in comparison to its opposite. So when I say the word up, you only know what up means because you can conceptualize its opposite, which is down. The same thing when I say literally any word. So when I show you a book, right? Show you a book, right? You know that this is a book because you also know every single thing which a book is not. But now, when I'm talking about all of reality, there is nothing which all of reality is not, because everything that could ever exist is all of reality. So there isn't a word or a system that I can use to explain to you what this one grand realization is. This is the realization of enlightenment, of nirvana, of truth, of satori, of awakening. This is the realization of Christ consciousness, and what every spiritual school and what the entire purpose of life is pointing you to is towards this one grand experience. Now, why am I talking about this? What does this have to do with boredom? Well, this one grand experience is very radical. It's very, very radical. And if you had this type of enlightenment experience, which a lot of people have experienced through psychedelics, through very serious meditation practices, if you have this type of experience, everything that you know and love and hold dear in life, everything that you think you are, is thrown out the window. And that is scary. It's actually emotionally and existentially threatening. It's emotionally challenging for you to come face to face with this grand truth that the ancient sages and mystics talk about. Now, the reason why, which requires a little bit of open-mindedness, just a smidge, just a little bit of open-mindedness and realization that you don't know what the fuck reality is at all. So since you don't know what reality is at all, and if you can admit that, which makes you a genius. If you're able to admit that you don't know what reality is, you are smarter than Einstein, because like I talk about in my video, How to Acquire Wisdom, you can't understand anything about reality unless you first admit that you don't know anything at all. The most basic things, I don't even know what I am. When you can admit that, then we can actually, now your cup is empty. Now I can start to say some radical stuff and you'd be open-minded to it. But anyways, this radical truth, this one enlightenment experience, is not a belief system. So when I start to explain and describe it now, it's not like I'm trying to get you to believe in any type of system of thought, but this is an experience that you can have for yourself in your own direct experience. And what I'm saying here, there's nothing to be argued against. It's not like this is an argument, like I'm saying some type of theory of reality, like, reality is a virtual simulation and it's a theory, and it's not a theory. This is the case. When you do the spiritual practices and you actually investigate reality for yourself, you start to see that what I'm saying is the case. It's not like you can argue and debate. It's not a theory. You have to either do the practices or not. A good way that I thought about it is a primatologist is someone who studies monkeys, right? And all they do is they study a lot of theory about monkeys, but they also spend 10, 20 years literally just sitting in the wild or in a zoo, just sitting with a pen and paper and just observing the monkeys and just looking at what they do. It's like, oh, that monkey is scratching his head over there. Okay, let me write that down. It's like, oh, okay, that monkey is getting really mad at that other monkey. Those are my monkey impressions. So the primatologist is sitting and he's observing the monkeys. He's observing them. He's looking at what they actually do. So if the primatologist tells me something about something he saw the monkeys doing, and I tried to argue with him, I would be a complete fool. Because before I even try and argue with him, it would be a lot more intelligent of me to actually go and sit and observe the monkeys for 1,000 hours. And then if I still disagree with what the other primatologist says, then I can actually disagree with him. But unless I actually observe the monkeys for myself, then I don't know anything about monkeys. And the same is true for reality itself. You have to observe it closely with some type of meditation or spiritual practice. And you have to study the theory as well. So basically, what the sages are saying, it's pretty straightforward, actually. First of all, there is only the present moment. That is the only thing that exists. Now, some people already aren't even able to go this far. It's like when I say, oh, only the present moment exists, the past and the future are illusions of the mind. People are like, no, already we're done. We're already done. You're already not open-minded enough. Because actually just look in your present experience right now. Verify if what I'm saying is true. Is there anything other than the present moment? No. It's just the present moment. It's been the present moment your entire life. Past and future, illusions. Now, the way that we experience the present moment is with 6 senses. Sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, and mind. That's the 6th sense that the Buddhists say is the 6th sense. So everything you've ever experienced is basically a combination of one of these 6 senses or all 6 of them at once. And that's it. That's all it is. Everything you've ever experienced is one of these 6 senses, right? Okay, so now let's actually look at what these phenomena, what these senses are actually made of. What do they consist of? What is their substance? Now, if you look really closely with a very open mind, if you look at your own hand, for example, what you'll see is that every phenomenon, every sight, every taste, every smell, it's not actually made of anything. It's just an empty phenomenon, like a dream. So when you're dreaming at night, right, and you look at a tree in your dream, that tree, if I was in your dream and I asked you what the tree was made of, you'd say, oh, it's made of wood. I'd say, no, like, what is it made of? You'd be like, oh, it's made of atoms. I'd say, no. What is it really made of? And if you were a good meditator, you'd actually be able to look at your direct experience and you'd see like, oh, the tree is just made of my mind. It's made of nothing. It's literally just a phenomenon. Everything is occurring in your mind. This is true. This isn't like, it's not a theory. It's not like an argument. This is the case in your direct experience. Now, here's this is where people get stuck, is they think that the mind is occurring in the brain. Now, this is a very common delusion that has been taught to us in school by people who don't understand how reality works at all, because they have never studied any type of mysticism or done any serious metaphysical inquiry, which is okay. Spiral dynamics explains the entire thing, but I don't want to get into that right now. But basically, we live in a materialistic paradigm where we believe that everything in the world is physical and everything in the world is real and separate from us. And we believe that all of this is just chemicals in the brain. Well, notice that that entire story that I just said is just a thought, just an empty thought in the mind. Now, where is the mind? You can say in the brain, but notice how that thought is just occurring in the mind. It's very spooky for people to imagine the possibility of a mind that does not occur within a brain. But if you really are honest with yourself and you are a good philosopher and you actually look at your direct experience for yourself, you'll see that the brain is occurring in the mind. It's a thought, a concept, an idea. Just like the rest of reality, it's a conceptual construction, including your life, including your name, including everything you think to be true. So imagine you're dreaming, right? And you're dreaming that you're some 45-year-old Filipino guy who is married to 2 different women and has 10 kids, let's say, right? But it's a dream, right? So in the dream, you have a whole context for like what you're doing. You're like, oh, I'm a Filipino guy. My name is John, and I have an entire life. I'm gonna go to work now. There's my kid, like Harry, and there's my other kid, like Melchizedek. This is all my kids, and you have an entire story, a whole context, right? But notice the whole time, it's just a dream. It's just in your mind. You thought it up. You imagined the whole thing. Now, all this reality is a different state of consciousness. It's a more solid seeming state of consciousness. It's more consistent. The rules are more consistent, but at the end of the day, all it is just mind. And everything that you think to be true, everything that you see, it's just a story that you're telling yourself. It's just context. Because in your dream, you aren't actually a 45-year-old Filipino guy. You're just imagining that you are. And your wife isn't actually separate from you, but it actually is you the whole time. It's made of your mind, the entire thing. Now, these types of truths that I'm talking about right now, notice how if you have any emotional reaction against what I'm saying, then just be aware of that and notice that what I'm saying is existentially threatening to your very way of life. And that's why we get bored, because if you actually sit down and do nothing for a long period, you start to actually realize that your life is a dream. And that's the worst ever. I don't know why anyone would want to know that. That's shit, because you spend your entire life living in, like, you think everything is real. You think everything is serious. Your dog dies, you're sad, you're crying. But in your dream, if your dog died, you'd still be sad. You'd be just as sad. Nothing about this world is real in the sense that it's a physical thing. There's no ground to it. It's all happening in your mind. Now, this mind that I'm talking about, the sages say that this mind is basically God's mind. It's one infinitely large membrane of nothingness. So notice how if something, any object, this is hard to imagine for a regular person, but imagine any object, if it has absolutely no qualities at all, if it's nothing, if it's literally nothing, like not the thought of nothing, but like actually nothing, notice how at the same time, it's also every possible thing. It's infinity. Infinity is equal to zero. They're the same. Which is why, if you haven't noticed, every single thing, look at this roll of toilet paper. Look, I'm almost out because, there's no more in the stores. So, I'm using one square at a time to wipe my ass. This this toilet paper here, it's literally made of nothing. It's actually like the actual, like what it is, like my actual sight of it, like the actual bare experience of this thing. It's nothingness. It's made of a sight. It's made of itself. And then you have a context. You have the mind come in and say, no, Adam, it's made of atoms, or it's made of molecules, or no, this is made of strings. See, it's not made of that. It's a thought. You projected that onto this bare experience. Notice how this isn't even toilet paper. Look, it's not even toilet paper. It's just a thing. Look, it's just a sight. You made up what it is. You invented it. Because reality is a construction of the mind. You literally invented the entire thing. How did you do this, and why did you do this? Well, so I was talking about the mind of God, right? So this one infinite membrane, this one thing, because all of reality, the sages say, I always have to say the sages say, but this is true for you in your direct experience. You can validate what I'm saying by doing spiritual practices. You'll see all of reality is one. Any separation at all, any type of separation, any boundary between objects, so the difference between this square, right, and this square, look, you made it up. See? See how you just invented the difference between these two squares? In truth, they're just both sight. They're both made of equally nothing. It's all one thing. It's all one infinite membrane. Look, what if I rip out two squares, right? In your mind, you'd say this is one, right? But then if I go like this, it's like, oh, it's two. But notice the whole time it's one. You just made up the difference. Your mind invented separation. Now, this is true, especially this is called duality. We've invented separation, duality. This is me, and then that thing over there is not me, right? But in a dream, remember, if you're walking through the forest in a dream and you look at a tree, right? You see the tree. In the dream, in the dream, the tree isn't you, right? Because it's a tree, it's separate, right? But in truth, the whole time you were dreaming, the whole thing is you. The whole thing is just empty mind. It's just nothingness. It's just pure perception. It's a hallucination, an appearance without substance. Right? Are you grasping what I'm saying? Notice how if this sounds like nonsense, like if you, let's say, show this to your mom, right? She'd probably say that it sounds like nonsense. I'm not speaking any nonsense. I'm speaking plain English, plain. It's just, it's very advanced because you have to be so open-minded. You have to literally admit that you don't even know the first thing about reality. Because once you start to realize that all of reality is a conceptual construction, then some really weird stuff starts to happen. You start to question your own birth. You start to question if you will ever die. What is death? What is that? You made it up. What is death? How could there ever be a death? Have you noticed that it's just the present moment the whole time? Right? What is the difference between this moment now and then the next moment in 5 seconds? The difference is nothing. The difference is that every single split second, this present moment dies and then is reborn as a different present moment. That's what reality is. It's impermanence. That's what the Buddhists call impermanence. Everything is always changing. So when you die, right, it's just a change of state, right? But what is death? Who dies? What is you? Because again, when we collapse dualities, we talk about non-duality, that's what all the sages are talking about. You start to see that the duality between the subject, which is me, and then the object, which is this toilet paper, the duality, the difference between, oh, there is an atom, there's a person that is viewing an object, which is not atom, that whole thing, completely made up. It's a story. In truth, it's actually just all you. Look, it's all part of the same dream. Look, this hand and this toilet paper, look, it's part of the same dream. It's all one thing. Right? So, yeah, so that's, it's pretty amazing. That's why we get bored, because this experience of enlightenment is absolutely life-changing. It's profound, and it feels like eternal bliss. It's like universal love. And it's also the freedom from ever being bored, ever. Because this present moment is perfect, exactly as it is, when you're in this higher state of consciousness, right? So the boredom, the root cause of the boredom is that you don't like this present moment. You think it's shit. You don't like this present moment. You want to get to some other present moment. This one now, garbage. I don't like it. But that other moment over there, where the grass is greener, that's the best moment. That I want to get to that moment. This moment here freaking sucks. I want to get to the other moment. Then I'll finally be happy. But then you don't realize, even though you've done this a million times, when you get to the other moment, it's just this moment, but different. You realize that yet? You know, it might take you, another couple lifetimes to realize that. It's the same moment. You have to like it the way it is. Exactly. Right? And the way you do that is by doing spiritual practice. You have to observe the present moment closely, like a primatologist observes the apes in the zoo. It takes 10, 20 years. You might have to go on 8 or 9 meditation retreats, like I have, and meditate for thousands of hours. But then you'll eternally be free from boredom, which I am nowhere near, not even close to that area. But I definitely have a much better existential understanding of the root cause of boredom and how that is inhibiting my ultimate happiness as a being, right? And that's what you want, is ultimate happiness. You deserve it. But, everyone's being forced to sit inside and do nothing. They're like, oh, I don't like sitting inside and doing nothing. Well, how do you expect to be happy? What are you going to do? Just run away from the fact that you don't like being alone? You're going to run away from that your entire life? You're just going to run away all the time? Is that what you're going to do? You know, you're going to start a career, you're going to spend 20 years in school or however long you spend in school, and then you're going to get a job, start a family. The whole time you're just running away from the fact that you don't like being alone by yourself with nothing to do. Because God forbid you start to do nothing for long periods, you'll start to see that the whole time you're just dreaming. And again, that kind of sucks to see, but it's also the most liberating and the most important realization that you can ever have. Because, you know, if I was dreaming, I would want someone to tell me, right? And I'm that someone for you. So, you know, regardless of what you, if you like what I'm saying or not, that's, you know, that's your opinion, but this is the case, right? It's like if the primatologist tells you that, you know, the monkeys, they have a societal structure that is structured in this way so that the chimps have the males on top or whatever. Regardless of if you like that or not, it doesn't change the fact that that is the case, right? And it would actually be a lot wiser of you to accept what is the case so that you can realize it for yourself, right? So that's it's the root cause of boredom. I hope you liked this video. I got a lot more videos like this on the way. It's just a lot for me to process as a person. Like, I have some serious, like, existential understanding that is, like, very challenging, very, like, threatening for me to, like, process and go through. So, you know, I spend a lot of time really just kind of getting my shit straight because it's difficult stuff. But it's also the most rewarding, and it's also freaking profound and amazing. And there's really nothing else to do in life, you know? What else am I going to do? I'm going to, you know, do some random business where I just make money for no reason. Like, if I'm going to make money, might as well do it for the most important reason, which is to realize your true nature as the one, the eternal oneness, which is God, infinity, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's the whole purpose of your soul's journey. That's why you've incarnated into this lifetime, is to learn lessons. You know, some people spend their whole lifetime chasing after sex, let's say, right? You know, that lifetime. The reason why you're doing that is because you have to learn that you know, any external thing will never make you happy. The only thing that'll make you happy is being internally grounded. And the only way to do that is to realize your true nature, which requires some type of spiritual practice of some sort. So hope you liked this video. Tons more videos like this on the way. If you like this video, give it a like. I don't even know if I'm going to post this or not, but if you liked it, give it a like. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, whatever. I don't care. And I'll see you in the next video.